Good evening, everyone. This is a one of the video sessions that I wanted, video messages I want to put out. This is the third to the series of the spiritual awakening, and I'm going to talk about the ego in spiritual awakening and development. As far as all of us are concerned, when we first have, before we even come to get to know about our spiritual awakening, we tend to have that control over life. The control that we have over our lives, we're very sure of what we see, what we feel and hear and experience. Everything is in the physical. So we have that sense of control over our lives, over everything that happens in our lives, because we're able to see it and feel it and hear it. You know, we're using our basic 5 senses to connect. But when it comes to a spiritual awakening experience, it seems like something completely different. Even though we're basically connecting to our higher self, even though we're basically trying to understand how we can connect to the other dimensions, we're learning about the truth. A lot of it would ring, very, very deep inside you. But even then, there is a part of us that refuses to let go of the ego. Now, the ego that we may have as people and how we portray our ego in this world is different to that we give towards or we project towards our spiritual awakening. When we are having these experiences, these gifts, the first thing that we normally as people do is, if the experience is positive, we tend to want to know how to control it. The need to control your spiritual experience is not very easy, because it takes time. It is not easy to control your gifts. It's not easy to have the answers to everything that you want to know. And so therefore we get a little egoistic about it. We start to think, oh, why is this happening and why is that happening? Yes, there's a level of confusion, but there's also the need to control what you're experiencing, and that is a different kind of ego as opposed to the ego we talk about and we experience on a day-to-day life here as people. When we have no control over a situation, we tend to get a little defensive about it. We tend to be afraid of it because we're so used to having that control. Even if you don't have direct control over everything in your life, at least you're awake and you're alert. But in a spiritual awakening, you don't have that control most of the times. It takes time for you to gain control. Like, you cannot really control your third eye, even though you may use certain meditation techniques. Your spirit guides and your guardian angel and the ascended masters will test your gifts out in various ways. They will try to send you messages. They will try to connect with you. And these experiences, these signs will not be under your control per se. You see, so you may actually start hearing voices, or you may see feathers all over the place as in signs, and not all of these signs are negative or shocking. They don't possess a shock value. Some of them are very pleasant, and some of them are very surprising, good surprises. But on the overall, when we talk about an ego during a spiritual awakening phase, or where you're trying to develop your gifts, it is about not having, being comfortable with understanding and accepting that you do not need to know all the answers at once. That you do not need to be someone who knows it all. Because there isn't really always a very pleasant, I wouldn't call it a very pleasant experience to know too much. Sometimes it's best to be a little less knowledgeable in certain areas of the spiritual world, because it also takes practice. For some of us, we have been awakened spiritually over several lifetimes, so it is more about remembering than learning. But for those who are awakening for the first time in any incarnation, it takes time. It takes a longer time for you to reach the destination the older souls have. So it is not about ego, about who is better. That is why I keep saying no one is better. It's only the distance traveled that matters. The distance traveled is what defines you. And it's not how much of an how big you are or how successful you are as a psychic or a reader or a healer. That does not define you at all. Sometimes if you were to actually look at the older souls, people who are much more gifted, they tend to be a little more quiet. They just give advice. They don't expect you to put them on a pedestal. They don't want you to place them on a platform and say, okay, you're so important, you're so and so. They would rather take a back seat and just help and be, as anonymous as possible. But then again, there are young souls who are so excited about their spiritual awakening and their gifts that they would go out there in the biggest platform possible and try to share their gifts, there's nothing wrong with that. But let not the ego take over the need to be a light worker. To be a light worker, you need to give enough light to others so that they can see their way. It is not to blind them with your light. And this has been misunderstood in the spiritual community at large of late, which in turn, all it could do, if this keeps going, is that a lot of people will turn this into a system that is like other religions. Spiritual community would become another system to follow, where all the elite and enlightened souls will go out there and claim to know it all and set a system around the many experiences people should have and what is considered as bona fide. Whereas every one of us, we do have a spiritual experience that is similar but not the same. So to expect someone else or a bunch of people to actually have the same experiences as you do and to claim yourself to be an enlightened soul is a misconception, is a misunderstanding that should not even be entertained. My experiences are different based on the many incarnations that I've had, the many roles that I've played, the distance that I have come so far as a soul. And so it cannot be compared, but it's no less important or no more important than your journey. Because we all come in one consciousness. We are all part of one single consciousness. We don't come from different consciousness. We all come under the same light. And therefore, whatever experiences that I possess, you possess too. And the only difference is the distance traveled. So there is really no need to have an ego. On the other side of the veil, you won't see something called an ego, because they don't believe there is a need to do that. To be able to use any of these spiritual gifts on the other side is as common as breathing and speaking and winking your eyes or hearing something. It is as common as that. So nobody goes around saying, I have a better third eye, or I have a better I have a better intuition than you. No one has the need to do that, because that sounds absurd, because everybody has those gifts. And that is how it has always been over here for all of us. In the beginning, there was only spirituality. The ancient civilizations believed in living their lives according to the laws of spirituality. And they all possessed these gifts. And their energy was intense. It is no different now. It's only that the systems have taken over. The governments and the laws of the land, so to speak, have taken over and mentally conditioned us to believe that we do not have any of these abilities, that to have them is to be abnormal. To have them would not fit into the society. So when you have these experiences, you have an ego of whether to choose this and not really fit into the society, which means that there is a certain amount of your ego that will kind of be injured in the process of looking or seeming abnormal. But you can also fight your way through these boundaries that this civilization believes in, to fight your way through these boundaries over time, and you can still be self-respectful, you can still have the confidence, you can still use your gifts and serve many. For there will be a widespread spiritual awakening in this planet over the next 100 years. And this will define our ascension from the 3D to the 5D. The 5D is not happening overnight. It takes time. Simply because initially I mean, there are a lot of rumors and news going around that there will be a lot of people who will awaken. But the truth is, how can you expect everyone to awaken without any need to portray their ego out in this world? It takes time. So it is not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. So until then, take each day as it comes, explore your gifts, don't be in a hurry, don't rush yourself, just take your time to go through each gift, to explore yourself, meditate, shed that ego that you have. It is okay to not be in control of your spiritual development. It is okay to not have all the answers. It is okay to wait, because waiting is something that is we feel out of ego. The need to rush, the need to hurry up is only because we limit ourselves to think that there is limited time for you to grow as a soul. Whereas on the other side, they see you as an eternal soul. And therefore the process to learn and evolve is all for eternity and not just one particular phase in this life of yours. I hope this has been educational. I hope this has been informative. I really would like to hear your feedback on this. God bless you. Namaste.